All right, here we are in the back. Before I set up the tripod, I'm going to go ahead and walk you in here. There's not a whole lot to do back here because we don't have any ball joints and stuff like that. I didn't get rear wheel bearings for it because it didn't seem like it needed it. We're going to be doing this strut, so we'll have to tackle that. But the big thing I was looking at here is these trailing arm bushings, for lack of a better term. Sorry, my finger's in the way of the focus there. So this thing is kind of a weird setup, the way it has this arm that trails down. That crossbar there is essentially what you would consider your axle almost, but there's no drive forces that go through this. So like I say, for lack of a better term, you would call it like your axle pivot bushing or your trailing arm bushing, whatever you prefer. But if you want to see here, now that right there, it's mangled. Everything's completely gone out of the inside of it. So when I'm driving, you can just hear this thing knocking around in the back. It's terrible. So that's what I want to tackle first. All right, there's a couple ways that you could do this. So I'm just going to go ahead and take you under here so you can really see up close what the heck's going on. And we'll explain the couple ways that you can do this. And it's all a little awkward. So let's just go get under here. All right, here we go. There's our fender. You can see us coming in under the back of this thing. This is our trailing arm bushing that we're looking at. You can see this is the outside nut for it. There's not enough room to get any sort of socket on that or anything. You can squeeze the box end of a wrench over that. Now, and then here is your backside. There's also not enough room to get a socket on there on anything big anyway. You got your fuel tank here's my finger. Your fuel tank is right over there and it's in between. You might not be able to tell the depth of this. There's not a lot of space right here. So it's basically looking like wrench is the way to go. However, if you can't get that, what you can do is this whole bracket. You have some roughly 14 millimeter, I want to say. I haven't measured them, but they look like 14s or so, which is the whole bracket. It's held in by, there's another one, and there's the fourth one. 4 of these bolts. You could just take that whole thing right down and then drop the entire axle forward. There. So you would be able to take that bracket down. If you can tell now that we're oriented correctly, that bracket right here, you would dig those 4 bolts out and you could drop the whole thing down, and then you'd have access to get an impact onto that there just once it's down below this bottom of the car, so you can get in at it straight. Now, what I was able to do, just because I don't want to do that if I can avoid it, just got a wrench on there. I double wrenched that and was able to just break it free. So now I can use a wrench on the other side. I got a ratchet wrench here, and we'll just go ahead and twist that thing out now and see. I hope I can still get the bolt out the other side. That's the other problem I'm worrying about. I might still have to drop this bracket anyway. So I'll go ahead and rip that off and see how that goes. Be a mechanic, they said. It'll be fun, they said. No, just kidding. Nobody said that. I know where I'm from. They tried to convince all the kids that didn't do well in school to go into trades. And that's not what happened to me. I actually chose to become a mechanic because I like working with my hands. And I haven't done so in a long time, though, in the trade as a job, because I've been doing something else. So now I get to wrench in my own time, break my knuckles for free in my own garage. So there you go. This one's tight. And this is after already hitting it with penetrating oil 2 days ago. Okay, if you recall, I did say it looked like a 14 millimeter bolt up there. And ta-da, my eyes were right. So let's go ahead and go the right way. These bolts out of here. Try not to have this thing fall on my head. Get on there. What do you think? Is it going to come down? Loosen, loosen. Oh, okay. So there we go. Ta-da. If I can see it here. Eating dirt again. So there's that aligning pin I was telling you about. That'll make it easy going back in. Okay, so here is the new one. And you'll see it's just a metal sleeve here around this big bushing. So that metal sleeve is what's sitting around this bore here. So all we're going to be looking to do is just drive a chisel to kind of start folding this bushing in, or this metal sleeve in towards the bushing, I should say, and see if it doesn't just loosen up, and then we can push the whole thing right out. How well you can see that. Got my chiseling implement there. Drove right through far enough it's stuck. So now I showed you this already. The new one, you can see this lip here on the back for the metal sleeve. That's what actually pushes through from the back side and butts up in there. So what I'm going to start doing is chiseling on the outside of that there to start driving it out, because we've collapsed so much of it here on the inside. So once we loosen up that lip on this other side, it should just start pushing itself out. So we'll see how that goes anyway. All right. Excuse the heavy breathing. I was just watching Cops. So once we beat in around the edges enough there, it released enough from this bushing that I don't know if you saw in the time lapse, I was able to just beat on the center of this thing and it just shot it straight out. So then I kept working around the outside and I folded this sheath in enough on itself. Here, let's see if I can do it right now. It should just push right out. I might need a little, oh, there we go. She gone. So we're just going to clean up that bore a bit, and then we can press the new bushing in. Good to go. Whew, let me catch my breath. And this happy little fellow is the reamer. Bastard file here, which is the correct name for it. Try to take our ridge off without making a lower ridge instead. I call it a bastard file because it's a real bastard to get it just right. I don't know that that's true, but let's go with it. Now, like I say, this isn't really, all this is just a collar to hold the bushing. The bushing is what we care about. So as long as this thing is intact enough to hold it, that's all I really care. But I do want all the sharp ridges out of there, if there are any, out, so that it doesn't make pushing this bushing in worse than it has to be. Alrighty, got the new bushing here. Just greased her up with some typical, whatever you would put on a wheel bearing or whatever. If you disagree with that, you can go ahead and argue about it in the comments. But it should help it slide in a little better. And even if this thing were to somehow rotate within this bore, doesn't matter at all. Doesn't matter. All we're looking for is the stability of this bushing in here to stop the trailing arm from bouncing around. So got our bearing press kit again. That's going to go on here. I'll set it up there from the back side and we'll drive this thing in. Hopefully she's easy peasy. All right, guys. There's a lot of cluster farting around here to get this. I didn't film it, but you know, I was trying to get this kit all set up. I'm using a ball joint press kit here for this to push this bushing in. Now, I finally got it kind of on there. Had to like reset, reposition and stuff and use a few implements because the width of this channel doesn't have enough to put a cup on the one side that we need and another cup on the back to push. So you kind of have to jockey things around and do a half push first and then release and then reset it up. So Let's see here if we can get this pushed the rest of the way now, or most of the way, because I have to switch the cup to this side for the protrusion of the bushing once we get the bushing far enough in. So let's run this in here as much as we can. All right, guys, good news and bad news. The bad news is this bushing was a real short show. I had to do a lot of hacking up and cutting and mangling and trailer parking to get this thing going. Now, I'll show you the bad news first, okay? So there it is. I had to use this ball joint press kit that I have, cheap one, but it wasn't wide enough to fit the cups in here and stuff that I need to push on this bushing, because same thing as our wheel bearing. So here's a new bushing right here. You can see that protrusion up top. So we needed something with a hole in the center that could still press on the outside of this, that ridge there, that sleeve of that bushing. So I had nothing like that. There was nothing in the kit. So I just took the old cutting wheel there. Turned out there was a hole like the perfect size here right in one of these pieces of the control arm that we took off. So I just hacked that off and butted that up against things, and then same thing, hacked off another ear of that thing, had another hole in it for the other side. So got her rigged up, and holy, I'm pretty sure I broke my nice long bar there. That guy, I'm pretty sure that ratchet and that's broken now from the force I put on that thing, and this has taken a lot of jam to get in there. So I was ready to just call her quits and say, forget this. We're taking this entire trailing arm axle right out. We're just going to get a shop press and go ahead and just get this thing out and press it properly. So that's what I did. I went to the store to get a press. Now, the good news is, when I was at the store, I thought I'd give her one last hurrah there. And I got a new bar. New tools, baby. So that's exciting. Got a big old long breaker bar there, and I put the beats to this thing with the hammer on the back side here, just to maybe, I don't know, loosen it up or get it kind of moving there in its bore, and I'm able to get her working here again. So let's see. I just measured her with the vernier calipers there, and I got 1 centimeter left to go. So let's see if we can't do that. I'd hate to pull this entire thing out just to get it on the shop press and do all that extra work for 1 centimeter here. So let's put the force of Thor into her and see if we can't get this done. And it went on like that for hours and hours and hours. Well, not that long, but needless to say, I'm not using my gym membership this week. Now, I did get this thing pulled in pretty well, completely all the way. I actually measured it, and it is 2/10 of an inch. Do the math on that one. Now, the right thing to do is get that pressed all the way in. That's what needs to be done. But I do got to move on because I need this car roadworthy here in a day, and I don't have time to fart around with this. It's actually not that big of a job to yank this rear axle frame out. So if I have to do that in the future, I will, and I'll show you all that. But in the meantime, that's in enough where I can get the collar on and mounted and everything, and that's all good. Now, with that thing being out just that minute there, that 2/10 of an inch, that might shift our rear axle just a tiny bit out, like maybe I don't even want to calculate degrees for you. We could do some sine, cosine, you know, all that stuff, but it'll shift it a tiny bit, I believe. Now that would lead to excess tire wear here in the rear. I don't think it's enough that it's going to matter, but I still want it done right eventually. But for now, I'm going to go ahead and get the rest of this done. We're going to strap all this, whatever, get the struts done, and move on with our life, because I don't have time to do this full meal deal right now, and it is good enough. It will work. I hate to leave you hanging like that, but that's the way it should be sometimes. So we're going to move on with the rest of this, get these struts out, okay? I do want to get to these brakes to take a look. I'll see if I can do that at the same time here. I'm going to get the other end of this in the air, so I have all the rear up here, and I'll do both sides at the same time. But I'm only going to show you guys one side, because once you've seen the process, it's all the same both sides. And then if I run into any fancy issues that are hard to solve or cause me a lot of cursing and swearing, I'll let you know in case you want to see that too. All right. And here we go again. So we have these two bolts up there. Went ahead and broke those loose, just thinking I would get ahead of myself and just knock things a quarter turn loose so that I can snap them off on camera here. Went to get our bottom mount, and where's the bolt head? Lovely, sheared right off. Like, it actually, if you look at this thing, I don't know if you can tell or not, but it almost looks like it's been, like it's corroded to the point, it almost looks like it's welded together, that bolt in there. So you come to this side here, and that nut there is basically tacked onto this collar for the mount on the bottom of the shock. So the only thing I can really do here is cut this clean off and then punch it through with a punch from the other side, and then put some new bolts in there. I was really lucky. I happen to have these sitting around. They're like the perfect size. They just happen to fit. I already checked them. They're laying around from another car that I stripped. So hooray, more nonsense. Okay, nonsense and Sue coming. All right, well, as you saw, we cut the edge off this thing here. I didn't try very hard with a punch to drive that out, because if you were able to see it, which you're not going to be able to very good with the camera, that thing is basically corroded so bad it might as well be welded in there, that bolt. So I think what happened was, my theory, someone took a bolt out of there at one point that was probably galvanized or stainless, replaced it with a plain steel bolt, and there you go. Now we got massive corrosion from all the road grime that gets in there and whatnot, salt and stuff. So don't have a whole lot of other choice but to just go ahead and get a Sawzall in here and cut the edges of that off, these collars out inside, so that we can get the whole strut out of there now. And then we'll pull the top mounts, yank the whole thing out, and then we can get on with replacing the new one. So lovely. Okay, so strut is out. We managed to wrestle it out of there with a little bit of force and power tools. Two things that always work. Now, this strut here, as you can see, this is the top mount of it here. There's our bottom. There's our top. Completely corroded, rusted. Like, there's, I don't know. I'll try putting the impact on this just to see if it'll come off, but I doubt that it will. And I didn't want to have to deal with that. So what I did was I got my new strut here, and we just went ahead and got a new mount for it up top, so I didn't have to reuse the old mount, because that's what I was worried about, is that thing being all rusted in there. However, the dust boot is still on there on the old one. That's the part we have to reuse. So this does need to come off. I will try it with an impact just to see if it spins off. If not, just go ahead and cut it off with the zip disc to get everything off, and then we can confirm what orientation all these bushings and everything are on there anyway for the new one before we assemble it. So you guys have seen me cut enough stuff and wrestle with enough stuff. I'm just going to get this off one way or another. I'll let you know how I did it when it's done. And then we'll go from there.
Me and Maverick are on screen.
Mav and Dad are on the air. There's Mav.
Demigod.
Demigod.
Okay.
All right, well, foolish me, but of course I didn't expect this to come off at all. Cut it off with a zip disc. That's the damage here. Okay. So now we know the orientation for everything to go here. But I didn't even realize looking at this thing when it was all wrapped up. Right here, silly me, we actually have a dust boot on this thing. It just looks a little different than this. It's actually a metal sleeve dust boot. It's probably a lot tougher. But there's going to be a bump stop under there too, just like this one. There's our bump stop, dust boot. So that's already included on the new strut. Great. But we confirm the orientation that all our bushings and mount goes, which is perfect. So we can go ahead and just put this one together. There's our mount with our washer on top and nut. This is knuckin' butts. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and tighten that guy up. It's a nylon washer, so to put the impact drill on it to tighten it down, and then we should be good to go to reinstall this thing.
Dad, don't forget to say Mav and Dad are on the air.
Now, got that all snugged up there, put together, lovely. And you remember how corroded and rusted up the other one was. Like I say, I doubt this vehicle is going to live long enough to ever see the struts be done again. But what the heck, I'm going to go ahead and just goop her up pretty good with some anti-seize just as a way to kind of protect it. I could just throw some grease on there maybe too, just to stop this thing from getting all corroded and rusted like it did prior. So doesn't look pretty, but nobody's going to see it because it'll be up there in the hole in the body. Now let's install this thing. Press the strut so it gets up in the right spot. Get our bolt started. Bolt through. All right, guys, we got her back from alignment, and it's looking real good now. One thing to note, they did have to use alignment bolts to correct the camber on the front end. Now, this is something that apparently is pretty common with these things. People just, I don't know why, you replace the struts, it's like the struts they make for them aftermarket are just all wrong, and the camber's always way out on them. So I kind of knew that was coming, but we got those camber bolts in, alignment shop got it all sorted out. It looks good now, the settings and everything. So, time to take it for a drive and see how it feels. Now, right away you can feel this thing, that it's a lot tighter. And that's kind of wild. Is the one thing you don't notice when you're just used to driving something that's so sloppy. You just kind of feel like that's the way it is and you don't even notice. But now that we've done all this work, wow, everything is just tightened right up. And you know, I didn't have a high bar for this thing to begin with. It is just an Aveo, but night and day difference compared to what we were dealing with before here. I know you guys can't feel it across the camera, but wow, just tight, nimble now. Like all this sloppiness, plus that clunking in the rear that I had with that trailing arm bushing, that's all gone. That thing was horrible, just clunking away all the time. So I think that's it for this one. We got her all licked up here. It's feeling good. Now, we didn't solve the fuel mileage issue. That's still bad. But if you want to see how that turns out, I got another video coming where we're going to sort out that fuel mileage and get her all back to good there. If you want to see how we do that, subscribe. I'd love to have you along for the ride. And come on back and see all the other stuff we fixed. I'll see you next time.